Stay on.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of The Cut. I'm your host, Christian Williams, and I am here, as always, with Randy Hall. Randy, how are you, man?
Doing good. Ready for the rain to stop here so we can actually enjoy some of the weather and maybe get all my sports in this week. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. We had to cancel practice tonight and are already talking about canceling Wednesday because the fields are not going to be in shape by then. So it's a good time. Hey, the NFL draft happened over the weekend, and it was a wild one. I guess quickly before we get into this Superflex rookie mock, which I'm sure everyone in the fantasy industry is doing, and we don't care. We're going to do it anyway tonight for everyone. Couple of thoughts on the draft. I mean, Lions going crazy over Jahmyr Gibbs. Is that warranted, do you think?
I mean, I think in most classes we'd be drooling over Jahmyr Gibbs. So to some extent, that's fair. I think he was always fringe first-round running backs on team sports. Coming out of it, it's hard to judge it because a lot of teams were hearing afterwards, well, you wouldn't have been able to get him at 18. Is what teams are telling the Lions, but again, it's what they're telling the Lions. So I'm perfectly fine with them putting their belief in the guy. It's just they had to been scared that the Patriots or Commanders or I mean, someone's trading up, So it's a tough one, but once it gets fleshed out, it'll be a good landing spot. It just isn't going to be fully fleshed out for at least a year or two.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Adding Sam Laporta to that offense is fun. We're going to talk about a lot of these rookies, so I don't want to get too in depth with it. What grade would you give the Raiders? I know they have the worst grade of the teams that you follow. Have to, right? Like they have to.
Yeah, it was a hit or miss. I would go B- because I don't think they made any detrimental picks. There's definitely picks that I think me and you and even Jeff and Kevin, we would sit there and say, well, you should have probably went that guy, and trading up for a backup quarterback that'll be third string this year isn't my favorite thing, especially with athletic defenders and offensive linemen left on the board. It didn't make a ton of sense. Taking the slower receiver, the two Cincinnati receivers, seemed like a weird move as well. So classic Raiders, they have to screw up one round. Thankfully, it just wasn't the first or second.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, let's get into this Superflex rookie mock. So we do this every year right after the draft to kind of prepare people for their rookie drafts that are incoming in dynasty leagues. We're just going to go through 3 full rounds and kind of draft how we would draft. We'll talk about where consensus is. Randy put together kind of a consensus from Kevin Coleman at Football Guys. He's been doing a ton of mock drafts, so he took some of that and then a few other sources as well. So we'll talk through that. But Randy, you're on the clock here with the 101. Get it over with.
Yeah, Bijan Robinson. We're not messing with it. We don't mess with perfection, and perfection is Bijan Robinson. It's a good landing spot. I know a lot of people feel the waters are muddied with already having a good rookie on the team from last year, but again, 4th round draft pick, not top 10 capital. They're going to put the ball in Bijan's hands, and they're not going to run him into the dirt, but he is still going to be an top RB2 at worst for fantasy, in my opinion. He's going to get the goal line work. He's going to get receiving work. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, he's with the most creative offensive coordinator in the league, probably. So I think Arthur Smith will have a plan to get Bijan Robinson the ball, and I think that he's my dynasty RB1. Like, he is the top running back in Dynasty right now. So that's perfect. I know, Randy, you got Bijan today in one of the leagues we're in, and I am so jealous.
Yes,
But
you're damn right.
yeah, and
I
then
was telling everyone for months, just whoever's at second, just you're on the clock already.
yep, yeah,
This is
understandable.
happening.
Yeah, that one's easy. After this is where it gets a little dicey, right? Because I think that there's a very clear case for Anthony Richardson here at 102. I think I wouldn't pass on the quarterbacks, but the reason I'm bringing that point up is because I have this top three tiered together. I think what you're going to see in your rookie drafts is Anthony Richardson is probably going to be the first quarterback off the board simply because of the rushing upside and everything for fantasy. But in Superflex leagues, I do think that you can make a case for Bryce Young and CJ Stroud to be the safer prospects, the guys that can be, back end ones consistently throughout their career. And if you don't believe that Anthony Richardson is going to make that jump to becoming a more refined passer and being a long term starter, then I can make a case for CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. But for the sake of this is probably going to happen in your draft, and I'm cool with it because they're the same tier, I'm going to take Anthony Richardson here at 102.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. I do. I think if you believe in Young or Stroud, I think you take them. Also, I think if you need immediate impact from a quarterback 2 or 3 on your team, you have to take Young and Stroud because,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no clear indication that Richardson starts week 1, and I think that's not a bad note in any means. He only started a handful of games in college. It's not the worst idea that he sits for a week or two at least. But if he beats out Gardner Minshew in camp, he beats out Gardner, and that's a good sign for any Anthony Richardson owners going forward. I will say, yes, the rushing upside gets you a good floor. However, as we saw with Jalen Hurts this last year, throwing the ball really is the floor. The rushing upside is your ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah. That's completely fair. All right. You're on the clock, 103. Where are you going?
So I'm gonna go with Bryce Young.
Mm,
Mainly because of the two teams between the Texans and the Panthers, I felt the Panthers made a concerted effort to get their quarterback weapons more than the Texans did. And at least true playmaking, impact veterans playing the ball this season. The Texans continue to build for down the line, which isn't the worst idea, but I don't know if it's going to be the same leadership down the line. And I think at this point, we're betting on the same leadership being in Carolina.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. Like I said, the 102 through 104, like if you're comfortable with, say, Bryce or CJ, and Richardson's going 102, then trade back. Like this is the tier though for me, is I would take these three quarterbacks and toss them in a tier. And so I just spoiled my next pick, but I'm taking CJ Stroud next. I think these two are very much so interchangeable. They graded out within, I believe, a half a point for me in the pre-draft process. And I kind of lean in your direction that Carolina did more to put pieces around the quarterback, but also Houston did go out and get, they were day 2 and day 3 receivers, but they did add to the room. I feel like CJ Stroud is going to succeed early. I feel really good about all three of these quarterbacks. And there's a reason that this is, I think we're going to look next year. Obviously, there's Caleb Williams and there's Drake May, but I think we may look back and say, well, that was actually a pretty strong quarterback class with those top three at the top of rookie drafts. So
Yeah,
Stroud at 104.
and two good options later in the day as well. So,
Yeah.
105, I think, is where the draft starts again. This actually is a true toss-up for me because, in my opinion, Addison and Johnson had the best landing spots for the receivers, but the best talents for me are JSN and Jahmyr Gibbs. And I've drafted with my heart, and I told this to one of our friends today who drafted a guy he wasn't sure that he should have, but he knows it was the right one. In this one, at this early, draft with your head, not your heart. Don't draft just for needs. I'm going JSN. I think he's the better player.
Yo, I support this. This is actually not a consensus take, I don't
Mm.
think. I think Gibbs is pretty firmly the 105 in consensus rankings, but man, I still have JSN ranked ahead of him. Now, once again, talk about tiers, like they're in the same tier, but I don't understand the hate for the Seattle landing spot, honestly. We've seen receivers produce a crazy amount in the scheme, and I understand that you might have to wait a little while, but I don't think you will. I think JSN is going to come command a large target share and get a lot of receptions because they'll work out of the slot.
Yeah, and do I think JSN gets the most fantasy points from Seattle receivers this season? No. Do I think he does in 3 years? Yeah. DK Metcalf is not a volume target, even though he wants to be. He's just not. JSN is. JSN is a playmaker with the ball in his hands. He will lead this offense moving forward. For the short bit, Geno Smith, and we'll see about for the future. But I do truly trust the Seattle organization, even though there is a chance the next quarterback will have a new coach.
Yeah,
Even though.
maybe. Maybe. It depends on this Seahawks run. Also,
I
old,
think it
old,
depends just more on Pete. I
well,
mean,
he's
he's
in good shape,
old.
man. I know he's old, but he's vibing out there.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
All right. I kind of spoiled this next pick as well, but if JSN's off the board, Jameer Gibbs is a fantastic pick here at 106. There's a reason Jameer Gibbs went, and then like a record low number of running backs went after these two. Gibbs is going to be used. I had someone ask, like, do you think that Gibbs is going to lose work to David Montgomery? Yeah, I think every running back is going to lose some type of work, but I also think that Gibbs is going to get the high value touches. He's going to be used out of the backfield as a receiver, which Jared Goff likes to dump down. There are a lot of things working in Jameer Gibbs's favor, assuming that they get him on the field and they don't DeAndre Swift it. I think Gibbs is probably the better prospect, better player, and so I do think he stays on the field. So
Yeah. I think the key thing everyone has to realize with Jameer Gibbs is, like I said, it's a little bit cloudy water right now. Monty, we both think he's a good running back. He's going to command touches. I'm not sure Jameer Gibbs will ever command 20 carries a game. I don't think that's ever in his realm of possibility, but I do think it's a possibility he gets 20 targets slash touches slash carries a game. I do think he's going to be an impact part of this offense along with Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I think Montgomery is going to try and be Jamal Williams plus for this team with some fresher, younger legs. And I
yeah,
think that's a good combo because we had to see Jamal try and carry this running back room last year and didn't really work besides at the goal line. So I think Gibbs is a good player and he should really thrive here at least a little bit now and for the future. 7, it's a tough one because, like I said, better quarterback landing spot is Quentin Johnston. Better future pairing wide receiver, it's by far Jordan Anderson because he's never going to be the top target on his team, but that doesn't mean he can't get 100 targets.
yeah.
So
So you're going Addison.
I'm going Addison because there was 2 years ago when I said I'd rather have Jamar Chase because of the quarterback. And right now, I'd rather have Justin Jefferson because I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's fair. I do think, a lot of people have compared Addison's situation to Devontae and AJ Brown, and I think that's a good comp in terms of like you have a very clear wide receiver one, and then you have what would be a wide receiver one for probably 20-ish NFL teams. Like I think Addison has that type of upside. I don't think he's there yet. And I think he needs to add a little bit of strength in order to become that. But I also think this is a creative offense that's going to get him the ball. I do love that landing spot for Addison. You made my pick easy though. I'll take Quentin Johnston all day here at 108. I actually have him ranked right ahead of Jordan Addison at 107 in my rankings. So for a lot of the same reasons, I think you're looking long term with Quentin Johnston because Keenan Allen's there, Mike Williams is there, but we know their injury history. We know that they're not necessarily going to make it through this entire season. So I do think Johnston can be fantasy relevant early. And man, if he doesn't offer something that those two don't, and that's just sheer speed. Whether that's on the underneath stuff or whether it's stretching the field, there is a clear role for Quentin Johnston immediately. So I'm cool with him here at 108.
Yeah. 109 is where it gets a little bit tougher for me. I think this is where you're kind of picking your value, picking your poison. I will say this is a tight end premium mock draft.
Yep.
So for me, I'm taking the player that the organization absolutely loved and would give anything to go get, and that was Dalton Kincaid for the Buffalo Bills.
I couldn't tell which one you were going because they
I know,
both
right?
did that.
I'm keeping it light and breezy. So, and Kincaid is a really good passing weapon. I think he really, truly can be the wide receiver 2 of this team moving forward, and kind of leave Davis in this defined role on the outside deep shot kind of guy. We saw he couldn't step up to that wide receiver 2 position. Kincaid can give you inside outside, has a running mate to start. So the inline blocking, he's not going to have to do a lot of because he's not that good at it, at least yet.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the shot there. Tight end premium. I think we need a few of these tight ends to get off the board here to really, truly show the divide that's going to be coming up here with wide receivers and the lack of running backs that we care about.
Yeah, there are a few, for sure. I will say, this was a disappointing running back outcome draft.
Yes.
Just not a lot of good stuff happened after the first day. Here at 110, you guys know me. I don't draft according to consensus or anything like that. And actually, I traded up with you to take Josh Downs around the spot. But for the sake of here's what you're going to see and here's what I would be comfortable doing, I'm going to go ahead and take Zay Flowers. I have Zay Flowers in the same tier as Josh Downs and another player that I will get to here in a few minutes. Zay Flowers got the draft capital. I think that he's going to be used in some way for the Ravens, although I do think that the expectation for him as a rookie should be tempered a bit. I think Rashad Bateman is clearly the one. I think Odell Beckham is clearly the two, but the Ravens are going to throw the ball a lot more with Todd Monken involved. I think that the dated Greg Roman stuff is gone. I think they will throw the football. How much that equates to fantasy relevance for Zay Flowers as a rookie, I'm not sure, but as a long-term asset, I think that this is a perfect spot to draft him in.
Yep. I'm going to go with the last running back I kind of feel like had an actual really good landing spot, and that's Devon Achane. And this is kind of the perfect landing spot for him. He's not going to be forced to have a ton of carries early on this first year. I think he can win the carries, but he's by far the most electric running back in that room. He can learn from two guys that are long tenured vets in the league, and I think he's going to get a good amount of work down the stretch of this season. And this offense is predicated on getting the fastest guys and getting the fastest guys the ball quick and early. And Achane can clearly compete with those guys in a 40-yard dash. So I'm going to give that coaching staff and a true running back that they valued, which we haven't had in a while, I'm going to give that the chance here.
Yeah, I still don't know what Achane is. I have him pretty low in my rankings, and I get it. I have him down at towards the middle of the second round, simply because I do think, it's tough to get players the ball. They don't throw a ton to their running backs, and I wouldn't even call Achane the best pass catcher of that group. I still think Jeff Wilson's probably that. I know that's splitting hairs and stuff, but overall, I get it. I understand there's upside there, and I mean he could be a fantasy, a dominator for fantasy. So
yeah,
I get it.
It not my RB3 going into the draft, but my RB3's landing spot isn't good. So
It's not good, which is why I'm not going to draft him here. For the sake of, I already mentioned Josh Downs. I'm not going to draft him here because what I didn't say is that this league we're in was not tight end premium. I don't think. Are we tight end premium? Did we
No.
transition to that? No. Okay. I know we had talked about it, but that would have been rough if I didn't take Michael Mayer. But in a tight end premium, Michael Mayer should be a first round pick, in my opinion. I know he was the third tight end off the board. I don't really care. In terms of immediate outlook, I think he gets on the field fairly early. Austin Hooper's there, OJ Howard's there. That stuff doesn't matter. I think Michael Mayer is the best all around tight end that the Raiders have. And he is one of the more pro ready tight ends as well. So I'd be comfortable taking him here at 112. And you're up on the turn.
Yeah. And that's why I'm not happy.
Yeah.
So because to me, it's now what do we want landing spot wise? And
Sure.
because of that, in tight end premium, I'm taking Laporta.
I dig it.
It's tough, and like I want to take Charbonnet, and I think Miller has some upside. I think Hyatt has upside. And there's all guys that are going to be going this round, but at that pick, I got to take at a tight end premium who possibly is going to be the most used weapon of an offense.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I love Laporta. Laporta has been my tight end 3 since last summer. I feel like I didn't talk about tight ends a whole lot. So then when I have Sam Laporta at tight end 3, everyone's like, "Oh, you changed because the NFL draft." No, I didn't. I promise. I've loved Sam Laporta. I had him in the discussion with Mayer and Kincaid, and he was right there behind them. So, great pick, great landing spot. I do enjoy that. I'm going to go ahead and take Josh Downs. I think Josh Downs is a fantastic football player, and I understand that he fell to the 3rd round, but still day 2, he gets paired with a quarterback that, he gets to grow with. I think Michael Pittman is the clear 1. I wouldn't say that Alec Pierce is the clear 2, even if he's going to be on the field in 2 wide receiver sets. Josh Downs is the easy replacement for Paris Campbell. Isaiah McKenzie's there. I'm not really concerned about that. Josh Downs should beat him out and win a starting role out of camp, I think, because I think he's just a baller. I think he's going to be on the field and producing for fantasy. And if he produces for fantasy, that means that it's a slot receiver that gets a lot of targets. And, maybe he doesn't do a whole lot after the catch, but it doesn't really matter because he's hauling in 8 catches a game from Anthony Richardson. So I'll take that at 202.
This is where I'm going to take Zach Charbonnet off the board.
That's fair.
I think Seattle drafted him in the 2nd for a clear reason. I think they're going to full lean on this running game, and I think they're going to continue running 25, 30 times a game while still being a relatively good passing offense. This is a really balanced attack, and it takes the pressure off of Geno Smith. But Kenneth Walker wasn't able to stay healthy all year. I think it did give them some pause with a good running back falling to them in the 2nd. They wanted to get more of a kind of a bruiser to pair with kind of a one-cut lightning burst guy in Kenneth Walker, who also has bruising capabilities, don't get me wrong, but he loves to bounce outside. Charbonnet loves to run you over.
Yeah, I dig it. I'm not as concerned with the Charbonnet landing spot. Like it sucks. But
my ideal landing spot for him, and I think we talked about this, was the Chargers or the Rams, ironically. So LA. But that spots where he could get 15 to 20 touches a game, but not be the best running, obviously Eckler's still the best running back and he's getting all the receiving work, but Charbonnet can get touchdowns. Because the Chargers been desperately trying to get someone to get 10 carries, 12 carries, 60 yards, and 2 touchdowns for the running back position. And I think he could have been a valuable running back 3 for you until they fleshed out the position and got rid of Eckler because they don't value the position, clearly. And then he had a chance to take over. But this, you got a guy you're a year younger than. Are you taking it over for him?
No, and I don't think this says anything about Ken Walker either. I think it speaks more to they just did not like DJ Dallas, and they lost Rashad Penny and Travis Homer this offseason. So, this was a need for them.
Yes.
So, and hey, guess where Zach Charbonnet went to school? LA. They could have kept him at home. But actually,
picks. Come on.
I know.
Come on,
It's a
Rams.
bummer. It's a bummer. All right, I'm here at 204, and I'm gonna just take the guy that I was talking about. And I'm gonna take, well, no, I'm not. I'm gonna take Rasheed Rice. If I can click it properly. This is a guy that's in my tier up there with Josh Downs. I understand that people are somehow fading this landing spot because he's with Patrick Mahomes now. That is a wild thing to do. In terms of how I rank the talent on in the Chiefs room, I would say Rasheed Rice is right there with Sky Moore. I think MVS still has a role for this team, and I think Kadarius Toney is somewhere further down the list. I think Rasheed Rice has a clear role. They don't have a player like this on their roster right now. And you can't use Patrick Mahomes as an excuse not to draft someone. That is, no matter what, that is inherently good, especially when it's a day two player that was ultra productive and has really good film. So I am comfortable taking Rasheed here. I know he's been falling like way down draft boards, and I don't care. Where is he in consensus?
23rd.
So 211. So
Yeah.
this is quite a bit higher, but that's okay. I'm down.
Yeah, but I think people are taking shots on their favorites here. And
Yeah,
honestly,
that's
I'm
fair.
glad you took Rice because then I feel more comfortable taking this guy, which is Hyatt.
Okay.
And honestly, for me, it comes down to this is their investment in the receiver position for the New York Giants. And they brought back a bunch of the old bodies for a year to figure it out and not have to be forced to take that position in the first. They were able to get the corner they wanted, the center they wanted, and then they got Hyatt, the receiver that they could covet, who's kind of a speed deep threat to get rid of Slayton in a year, but also isn't this. He's a multi-use tool, and I think he's going to really thrive here.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. I wanted to. No. No. I said no time
Sometimes with
limit.
this guy.
That's all I wanted. I just wanted the draft pause to be gone. No, I think that's a good pick. I'm not a Hyatt fan. I personally don't have a whole lot of interest in pairing people with Daniel Jones, but I understand. I
Apparently,
understand what
they
the
do.
opportunity. I exactly, and I, sometimes I'm wrong. So that's the thing you have to
Yeah.
remember sometimes. So
I don't have full belief in anyone they have on the team right now, and that's kind of the
that's
biggest
fair.
thing for me when I'm trying to pick between what's sitting here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm here at 206, and I'm taking Tank Bigsby. I tweeted about Tank Bigsby, and I'm probably still getting cooked on Twitter. I don't care. Tank Bigsby to me is the most well-rounded, best running back that the Jacksonville Jaguars have. I understand what Travis Etienne is. I understand that he was pretty good last year. There are things about his game that are not adequate enough if they want to be Super Bowl contending, and I know that they do want to be that. I think Tank Bigsby is a better pass catcher, and I think he's a better between the tackles runner than Travis Etienne, which means I think this is going to be more of a split than people are crediting it for. I think ultimately they want to use Etienne sparingly and out in space and take advantage of the explosives. And then they want to let Tank kind of get between the tackles, take all the hits, it kind of like an Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon situation. I know Tank Bigsby isn't the same type of back as AJ Dillon, but I think that's the like role usage that you'll see, and that's super valuable here in the middle of the second.
I think it's funny that people are pushing back on it, but also coming up with the same narrative and ideal for Detroit. And that's
Yeah,
what we're doing here. We have an offensive weapon, an elite one at that, with game breaking playmaking, breaking speed, and just an overall absolute threat that can be used all over the field. And then we have a pure running back. And I think that's a good team building. So I definitely like it. And I was struggling with that one as well. So again, thank you for making this slightly easier. And I'm going to go with old Mayo boy Levis here. Um,
it's a
I
good
think
spot
he has
for
a
him.
chance to be the quarterback this year, plain and simple. And I know he's the quarterback next year. So if he sits in my taxi squad all year, that's fine with me. But in the middle of the second, a guy that a week ago we thought we'd be taking in the middle, late first. I think that's a steal here.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like I flirt with him around here. I have him ranked at 210. So like
If
that's
he went 11 to the Titans and they drafted a worse offensive lineman, we'd be taking him at 2-9 or 1-9.
yeah.
They
Yeah.
got the best offensive lineman, arguably, and then him.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. 208. This one's tough for me.
Good luck.
Yeah. So I know people are panicking about the Tajay Spears ACL report that he doesn't have an ACL. Um, that's not new though. Like he was still cooking folks on the field last year, and I know it's like a sure maybe he's a one contract guy, but that's 4 years of good running back production in my opinion. I think that he does have a clear role immediately. If you look at the Titans skill position players, you want to vomit a little bit. And clearly, Derrick Henry can't catch passes, despite what I said 4 years ago. And Tajay Spears certainly can. So I'm going to take him here. And the reason it was tough, Kendre Miller's a good pick here, too. But I'm going to take Tajay for all of those reasons.
Kendre Miller is kind of the same thing, where is he getting touches this year?
No.
Like Tajay,
unless Kamara gets suspended.
So Kamara is going to get suspended, in my opinion, but they signed Jamal Williams.
Yeah.
For that reason. So Miller, while he'll get some touches, Jamal signed a 2-year deal. Like, I think Miller, there's a chance this could be his team in 2 years. I'm not arguing that, but it's tough for me to, at this exact spot, it's tough for me to take that knowing that he's probably just going to sit in my taxi squad. But looking at this draft class, you're kind of doing that regardless. So with that being said, I'm taking Mingo. Same thing I talked to you earlier today. This is the second round pick. This is the weapon that they chose to be the weapon moving forward for Bryce Young. Now they're going to add weapons next year. There's no question in my mind. But they brought in a bunch of vets, and then this is the young guy. This is the athletic stud from the school that has produced the athletic studs of late, and they bet on his traits. I'm going to bet on his traits at this part of the second round. And again, he's not touching my lineup until he does something, but I think he has a chance to break out of the pack here.
I think that's fair. I'm not a huge Mingo fan. I probably won't have a single share simply because of he went the 112 in a draft that Jeff is doing. And
he's a second round pick for me.
Yeah, pushing into the first round is like kind of craziness, but I understand the premise though. Like, if you think that he is the clear one there, in a short amount of time, like then that's the same thing as Downs and Richardson. Like you have two guys that are going to grow together on their rookie deals. Like that's good in theory. So I get it. I'm going to take Kendre Miller for some of the things we just talked about. I do think that he earns a role at some point, and I think there's a chance that Alvin Kamara is not a New Orleans Saint, and whether it's a trade or I wouldn't want to rule that out, and I do think that Kendre long term has a lot of upside. I think he is an all-around back. I think he can be a good pass catcher, but I think he carries the load pretty well too. And this is just perfect value for a running back. You're taking shots at running back at this point, and I'll gladly take that shot here at 210.
Yeah. Speaking of taking shots, guys you believe in, Marvin Mims. Let's do it.
I love
it. Guy we both absolutely adore. And we just like we love Downs. And a good landing spot. A team that has basically been in talk all offseason about trading their top 3 receivers. Drafts a receiver early to be the guy for the future. I think this puts all 3 of those guys' clocks, start to tick down even further. One of them's gone. I don't know who it is. At least one's gone. So,
well, here's the thing. They picked up Judy's 5th year today, so I think he stays. Mm-hmm. I think Sutton's probably gone to a team that just wants to take a shot. I think maybe Sutton's a Houston Texan here soon, since they just can't figure out how many
Panther.
receivers they can. Yeah, Panther makes
Make
sense
my
too.
last pick look stupid. But either way, I think Mims, he has enough talent and versatility to be a wide receiver 2 on your fantasy team.
Yeah.
Will he
No,
get
I
there? I don't know. But that kind of talent, that kind of player, and what we saw on tape, what we saw through these interviews, and what we saw in the draft, him being drafted there, I'm taking the shot.
yeah. No, I dig it for sure. Speaking of guys that I loved, Jaden Reed,
That was
always was in,
who was
always,
debating between.
yeah, I was always, he was always a top 10 receiver for me. I was really not expecting him to be a top 50 pick, but the fact that he was a top 50 pick makes me think he's the immediate number 2 in terms of the wide receiver room in Green Bay. Um, they added a ton of wide receivers. They added even more when it came to undrafted free agents. Like, it is very clear that they are trying to put Jordan Love in a position to succeed. And I think Jaden Reed does a lot of things that will translate to Jordan Love's game. Obviously, Christian Watson's the number 1 there, but I think 2 years from now, Jaden Reed could easily be like a top 24 receiver on a lot of or in a lot of seasons. I think that he could be a perennial top 24 guy, and you can get him here at 212.
Yeah, and of the three, he's going to be the one that's most likely to going to be a slot receiver, or at least play that role a bit more. I I do think they view Watson as their one on the outside, their X. That's what they think he is. We'll see if that's the case. Uh, Dobbs, I don't know what they think. I think they liked him going into camp. I don't think we saw enough from the season, but they pretty much just used him on the outside. So I think this draft capital, along with what they did at tight end, shows that they want to work short and intermediate and let Watson just dominate deep, which is what he does best. And Reed can really stand out. And I literally countered today. I got offered Dobbs and as kind of a helper to a deal, and I was like, no, because in my opinion, I think it's gonna be Watson, Reed, and Wicks in 2 years. I don't think Dobbs is gonna matter.
Well, and when
It,
you factor in, I mean, they added, who else did they add? Hang
I
on.
they got Wicks. I know that, and I
Yeah.
like him.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to look it up. Go ahead and
You're
make your
good.
next pick. Oh,
So
they
my
added,
next one,
sorry, I
you
found,
got it?
so they added Malik Heath too, the Ole Miss wide receiver, who I think could could push for, like, it depends on what they think of Dobbs though, because I mean that's pretty much the same draft capital, undrafted free agents and day 3 guys. So
To me, I don't think they're by any means out on Dobbs, but the fact that they triple tap receiver and then double tap tight end shows that they're not happy with their weapons at all. Even if they really like those two, they're not loving them.
yeah,
But my next pick, because you took Reed, I'm going to go Roshan Johnson.
I like it.
So going to Chicago, one of the better landing spots, and it's a guy that was perennial backup in college. All we heard all off season, all college season, he'd be a starter anywhere else he goes. Well, he didn't, so we'll never know that. And did he look good? Sure, but no one can look that good compared to Bajan. But there was a few plays that everyone that's watched Texas running back tape, there was a few different plays where you couldn't tell which one was which at certain times. So I think there's a lot of upside. And going here where we have two of the running backs that people like, but no one can really stake a flag in and say that they're going to dominate this position. I think this is one of the best landing spots. He's just not one of the best talents to me, but I think he could be an absolute steal here in the third.
Yeah. To me, he's the third down back, and he's pretty much there to protect Justin Fields. But I also think that he could be the goal line back, and I think that he could.
Yeah.
Not that the goal line back has a ton of value with Justin Fields there, because I think he's going to run in a lot of touchdowns. But
I
I think you are taking a shot that Deontay Foreman's not there after this year, and
yeah.
then Khalil Herbert's running out of time here too. This will be his 3rd year, so long term, you could be looking at a high value starter in the 3rd round. So
And he does have a 3 down skill set,
he
which
does.
Herbert really doesn't. and we
Yep,
know Foreman doesn't. So he's
correct.
the only one there that actually does. So, well, I'm not sure he's going to get ton of touches this year. I think he has a chance to earn them.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna take Zach Evans. I don't care. Zach Evans went in the 6th round to the one of the best possible landing spots, and I think that's what has forced me to stay in on Zach Evans. I think there's obviously some concerning things. Falling to the 6th round was not based on his tape. I, I can tell you that. Maybe he was a 4th round pick based on his tape to some teams. I think you can make a very clear case that he was a 2nd or 3rd round pick. But the off-field stuff, I think, and maybe the interviews played a part in this. But he goes to a place where he's battling with Kyron Williams to become the number 2 running back here behind Cam Akers. We know what the number 2 running back in the Sean McVay offense is, and that's I'm sick of Cam Akers right now. I'm going to throw this guy in. And while I do think that Cam Akers kind of came around last year, and Zach Evans could potentially be just an injury replacement type of back, when he gets on the field, I expect him to be very, very good. So I'll take him at 3-2.
He's got a chance to win the job.
I think so. I think so.
So tight end premium, I'm going Luke Musgrave here. The last Packers offensive weapon they drafted in the 2nd round last year, they tried all year to make their threat on the offense. I think they do the same with Musgrave.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and take the other one. I'll take Tucker Kraft. So it's interesting because double tapping tight end rarely works. We saw it work with Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski. Then the Patriots it worked for a little while, and then they tried to do it again with Devin Asiasi and who was the other guy? Don't remember off the top of my head. That's the point, though. It doesn't always work. But the Packers had no tight ends on the roster. They had Josiah DeGuara slated to be their starter at tight end. He is their starting fullback. So I don't know which one of these tight ends will emerge. I think both of them have an opportunity to be on the field a ton. I think they're going to run heavy 12 personnel. I think they lean into their running attack because I do still think in terms of wide receivers, as much as I like Jaden Reed and I like Christian Watson, they have one of the worst skill position assortments, receiving assortments in the league. So I'll take the chance that Tucker Kraft is the guy that emerges as the target getter.
All right. I'm going to go with Hendon Hooker.
I get it.
Getting the last of the quarterbacks that truly matter in this class. In the 3rd round, I think is a no-brainer. Doesn't leave your taxi squad all year.
Yeah, I get it. And he's not going to leave the IR all year. It sounds like they're redshirting him. They've said that already. He's not even going to be the backup this year. So, but I also think that they could be looking at him as a developmental 25-year-old, which is an interesting way to approach things. The Lions did some weird things, I tell you. I'm going to go Cedric Tillman here. We texted through the Tillman pick. I like the Tillman pick. I think Cleveland's definitely going to move to a more pass-heavy offense. Donovan Peoples-Jones is in the final year of his deal. Amari Cooper is getting up there in age. Elijah Moore just got there. It plays a completely different role than Cedric Tillman. David Bell's there, whatever. Cedric Tillman, to me, has an opportunity to be that downfield threat for Deshaun Watson, while Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore work the underneath, the shallow, the intermediate, all of those things. I think Tillman could earn a role here very quickly. And so when you take him at 306, he's going to skyrocket in value as soon as he gets on the field. I think that could very well happen in 2023.
Fair. Speaking of possibly earning a role early on, I'm gonna go with Michael Wilson.
You bastard.
Got drafted to Arizona, and we know this is gonna be kind of a punt year for Arizona. We got all the messages today. Hopkins is back. He's sticking around. I don't see that happening all year. I think he sticks around maybe to start the year, but I think he's gone by the deadline, no questions asked. And I think that's best for both parties. Hollywood Brown is kind of their wide receiver one moving forward. We like Rondell Moore. I'm not sure I love what the offense was last year. I don't know what the offense is going to be this year. Michael Wilson is a little bit different. He's more on the long lines of Hopkins for that offense. I think he could be the replacement and truly be a weapon for that team. Not this year necessarily, but moving forward.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I would have taken him here. So I'm sure you saw me scrolling. What's going on with Tank Dell's ADP here, folks? I know this is like pre-draft stuff here, but I'm taking Nathaniel Tank Dell here.
Yeah.
Day two capital. He goes to a team that is severely lacking weapons, and he's one of the best route runners and separators in the class. I know he's small, and I know people get scared of small receivers. You just talked about Rondale Moore, but man, like 3'8", I'll gladly take a shot on Tank Dell being CJ Stroud's favorite target because he likes separators. He likes to see people open. I think that's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty much just got to beat out
John
everyone
Mechie.
besides Mechie. He doesn't even have to beat out Mechie. He's just gonna be the two.
You don't think? Well, so Nico Collins is their outside receiver. I think Mechie's probably their Z, and Tank Dell's probably their starting slot, right? Robert Woods is there
Woods
for
will be the
now,
starting slot,
and then maybe he's cooked. He's kind of cooked last year, though. Like I think
yeah,
Tank Dell
it's
could
a
come in and be
battle.
like,
We'll see how it goes, but I think Tank can earn some reps.
yeah,
But I mean, he's a future pick here.
yeah.
Speaking of future picks, I'm going A.T. Perry. Drafted the Saints. Not a lot of competition in that room, really. At least for wide receiver 3, he's competing for automatically. Michael Thomas on his last leg. This is Olave's team, and A.T. Perry is a lot different. He's more of a big wide receiver. I think they could work really well together.
Yeah, I really like that pick.
And we know Carr likes to chuck it deep for a jump ball. So
That's true. Yeah, one of the other players that I don't think should have slid as far as he did, but he did, and so now we're here. I'm gonna take Izzy Abanikanda here at 310. Brees Hall's still hurt. I think Zonovan Knight probably has a role. I'm not sure what the staff thinks of Michael Carter. I think Izzy Abanikanda is the perfect scheme fit for this Jets offense. And I think that, I just talked about accumulating value. I think the first 3 weeks could be the Abanikanda show in New York in terms of which running back is getting the majority of carries. And I ultimately think that he could work into a role where he's Brees Hall's primary backup once Brees is back. So I'll take that at 310.
yeah. 311 upside, a lot of turmoil in this room. We don't know what's going to do. Not a lot of depth behind him, that he's going to really be fighting with. I'm going Dwayne McBride. Vikings landing spot. It keeps growing.
Yeah.
If Cook's gone, it's literally Madison and McBride and Wangwu. That's it. And Madison has never gotten a full workload. I think McBride could get some meaningful snaps this year. And everyone in that room, once they get rid of Cook, has a chance to cement themselves and make it so they don't draft another running back next year.
I get it. Doesn't sound like Dalvin Cook will be on the team at his current salary.
Yep.
So I'm curious to see what McBride is. I get scared of backs that have more fumbles than receptions in their college career, but I get it. There is definitely upside there. I like that landing spot. I'm going to end the draft with Eric Gray. Saquon Barkley isn't the healthiest fantasy football player of all time. I think Eric Gray has an opportunity to step in as the number 2 running back pretty quickly. Matt Breed is there, Gary Brightwell's there. I think Eric Gray has a clear skill set that, maybe those two don't, where I think Gray can be on the field for all three downs if needed. I also think he's got some pretty an elite burst. I think Breed is fast too, but I think Gray can be that, like, if Saquon were to go down, I think Gray is the one that gets the biggest value bump. I'm curious to see what they do with that running back room, though, because, I
Yeah.
mean, outside of Saquon and Eric Gray, it's pretty ugly. I don't know if they add another name to it. So
I mean, Saquon still has to sign. So
this is
right
true.
now, Eric Gray is the starter.
This is
That
true.
won't happen. But so why Eric Gray over Chase Brown with Cincinnati?
Well, Zach
Just talent?
Taylor talent, but also Zach Taylor came out yesterday and said Joe Mixon's future is with us. Like, we are keeping Joe Mixon. And so if I'm looking at that and I say, okay, Chase Brown, does he have a pass catching role? Maybe, maybe. I wouldn't like lock that in. I think maybe he can be P Ryan, what P Ryan was last year, and I'm not super enthralled with that. I think Chase Brown was a fantastic athlete that didn't play up to his testing numbers at times, and I wasn't super impressed with his film, so I just stuck with my film grade there, where I had Gray ahead of Brown.
Yeah. Just wanted to point because I know Cincinnati was everyone's. Well, whoever goes there, until we want in the late in round 2 or 3.
Yeah,
And
he's a good fourth round pick. Like, I would take him probably
yes,
next. Um,
other people, Luke Shoemaker, Bretton Strange, I think are good tight end options. Dallas and Jacksonville landing spots respectively. I think both have a chance to be the tight ends in the future. So
Yep. Parker Washington's a guy that went, kind of unheard of throughout the process. He was hurt the whole time. I think while there's a very crowded room in Jacksonville right now, I think Parker Washington could be that number 4 receiver that, with a few injuries, walks into some fantasy performances. I think he's pretty ready to play early. Um, Stetson Bennett's actually a good shout, I think. Stetson Bennett, Jaron Hall to me is a good stash once you get past this third round. If you're into the fourth round, like, I'm cool taking Jaron Hall, and he's almost as old as Kirk Cousins, but also if he impresses enough and they feel like they can not pay Kirk Cousins, I think he could work his way onto the field. Do you have anyone else? Deuce Vaughn, are you interested in Deuce Vaughn?
slightly, but I think you could take him late fourth, fifth. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's not a lot of running backs left that really am willing to take a shot on. Sean Tucker with the Bucks.
it's a good
Um,
one.
kind of going off memory here. Uh, there's still a couple landing spots where like okay, there's a chance if they could win out, they could be a rotational player, But what is it? Puka, Charlie Jones, they all had decent landing spots. I know Houston drafted another receiver, and I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but they were
Xavier Hutchinson.
yes, more of a prominent guy. So I think he has a chance to win spots, but we'll see. Like, like I said, like we both said. Once we get, I mean, even the third round, you're just picking your favorites and taking shots on those favorites. Once you get in the fourth and fifth, you're just taking upside shots, plain and simple.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. One other name I guess I did want to mention. I'm not super high on this player, but Tyler Scott, in Chicago. It Everyone loves this pick simply because he looks like a Darnell Mooney replacement. It kind of makes it seem like Darnell Mooney's not getting re-signed, and he could have that like number 2 or number 3 receiver role for the Bears. I'm just not 100% interested in that offense's number 2 or number 3 receiver right now. Um, Before we see what it looks like once they start throwing the ball, because they actually have talent around Justin Fields.
Yeah. Darnell Washington. Thoughts?
I'm done with him. And the
You
reason
out?
I have him as a priority free agent after the 5th round in my rankings now. Simply, he still got the draft capital. I get it, but like, you can't It's really tough for me to justify grabbing a big tight end prospect that wasn't a great receiver in college that goes to a team that has a third year elite pass catching tight end in Pat Fryermuth. Like, in terms of can he spot start for you if Fryermuth were to go down? Probably. But do I have an interest in even stashing that right now? No, not really.
I think he can be. I think he could be Foster Moreau for you in a spot start.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
going to get 3 or 4 catches, 40 yards, possibly a touchdown, and that's a tight end 1 week.
Yeah.
So, and I think the more we get into Washington's career, the more likely he's going to be a weapon. But is this team going 12 personnel every time? I don't know how you
No.
can. I mean, I know you have 2 top receivers, and that's about it. But man, your possible wide receiver 3 option didn't really play at all last year because of injury. I don't think they take that chance completely off the field.
Well, not only that, but I also like, even if they do play 12 personnel, he's not going to be the one getting the ball. He's going to be the one blocking and releasing. Like,
Yes, he'd
like,
he'd be getting dump offs.
yeah, and he's a good yak player. Like, I could be
Yeah,
completely wrong on this now, and maybe I overcorrected the landing spot, but also I just I don't see a path to fantasy. Like, I see him being a fantastic football player that does a lot of really good things in the Pittsburgh Steeler way. I just there's not much fantasy upside unless he catches
and
20 touchdowns a year.
yeah, and that's why
Which,
I brought up Foster Moreau because when Darren Waller was playing, Foster Moreau was getting 1 catch,
right.
you
Yeah.
know. But when he was out, it was like, okay, well, he's now, part of the targets. So
Yeah.
he's not the top of it, but he's part of it.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Quick run through of the at least the first round. This is tough. It's tough to read. Bijan Robinson at 101, 102, Anthony Richardson, 103, Bryce Young, 104, CJ Stroud, 105, Jackson Smith and Jigba, 106, Jameer Gibbs, 107, Jordan Addison, 108, Quentin Johnston, 109, Dalton Kincaid, 110, Zay Flowers, 111, Devin A-Chain, 112, Michael Mayer. Not going to read the rest. Go back and listen to it. If you're listening on the podcast feed, especially because you don't have the visual thing, but if you are interested in looking at the draft board, we're on YouTube. There's a video of this, so go check that out as well. Anything to add on this rookie class? Overall, how do you feel about it?
Um, I think we're at a weird spot because I feel like people feel disappointed in it because we've been hyping up the 2023 class for a while, just like we've been kind of hyping up 24. And I think landing spots definitely cut us off at the knees a bit, but especially at running back. Wide receiver, I think there was good landing spots. I think they're predictable landing spots. And then we have some deeper shots that like we have with A.T. Perry and guys that we already covered there where it's like, well, I mean, they could definitely earn a role here. And I'm really confident in their ability from what I saw on tape, but it's not 2 full rounds of just knockout picks like a lot of people were hoping for. So, and I do think if you're in a tight end premium, I think this is a better class. As we saw with this class, we are drafting these tight ends.
So I think that's just a quick parting note. Like, I'm comfortable taking Mayer and Kincaid in the first round in non-tight end premium.
It would be
Personally,
11 or 12 that I would
it's
consider.
it's the back of the first for sure. But also, when you look at what's there in the second, like, I think swinging on the upside of a top 12 tight end season, which I think those two offer you the best shot at that, instead of swinging at a potential RB2 season, I think that that's valuable because there's a
It
chance that
is.
both Kincaid and Mayer are top 5 to 6 dynasty tight ends in 2 years. And I'd rather draft that at the back of the first over, Tank Bigsby, who I really love, but is probably capped at like top 20 is what we'd look at in a season. So,
Yeah. Where those guys, after the first year at least, are almost guaranteed top 20 tight end. Yeah.
All right. That will do it for this Superflex rookie mock. We hope that you can use this in your rookie drafts and have it be a little bit valuable for you as you navigate which rookies you're adding to your dynasty rosters. You know, I think you're right. A little underwhelming, but overall, the top end talent of this class is very good still. So keep that in mind. I was making
Yeah.
deals all day in my first few drafts. So
Same.
um, yeah, we went crazy on that. So
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, if you're at a pick, someone's offering. You know, if you're not loving it right there, if you're not loving it 1-9, trying to decide between Zay Flowers, Dalton Kincaid, A Chain, trade back. It's
yep,
fine.
yep,
Don't feel because you traded for this pick last year or during the season that you have to make this pick. Get
yeah,
value. I traded Montgomery in the 109 for Barkley today. Gets value.
yeah, yeah, for sure. All right. On that note, we're gonna get out of here. We'll talk to you guys again next week. I'm not sure what the outlook is in terms of future shows and whatnot, but we will be back
Yeah.
in some form or fashion. I don't think we're gonna do a draft grade show. Um,
No, that's
we're past it, and also it's not worth it. I saw one grading scale today that gave one C. The rest were A's or B's, and no one did poorly. So
if you want a real draft grade, what you need to do is get the rookie guide from Debbie Royale,
mm, yeah.
because then you really are getting draft grades and landing spots for these players.
Yeah. Um, yeah. We'll end on that, I guess. Thanks,
I
man.
got you.
Um, all right. Yeah, go to footballguys.com/rookie guide. I think will take you to the new rookie guide. Version 3.0 is out. Worked all weekend on it. Very proud of it, and really hope that it can help a lot of people win. Shout out Kevin and Jeff and the whole Football Guys team for that as well. Should be a good asset for you as you navigate your rookie drafts, just like this Superflex mock was. So we'll be back next week. Until then, for Randy Hall, I'm Christian Williams. We'll talk to you guys then. Later.